Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of The Weeknd-Hurry Up Tomorrow. This is the brand new album from singer, songwriter, producer, Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd, and not only is this the last installment of the ongoing trilogy that The Weeknd has conjured up, but also the last under the Weeknd name. Yes, the last under the Weeknd alias. But back to the trilogy, the first one being After Hours. But I must say though, the second installment, Dawn FM, really did grab me more than After Hours, not taking anything away from After Hours, but I will say that Dawn FM was definitely more focused, definitely more of a enjoyable and stronger album experience. Loaded with a lot of 80s synth pop bangers. And also I must say there was definitely more consistency this time around, and definitely did touch on more of world building here. You definitely felt there was more focus here, as this thing was pretty much an allegory to death, very much the allegory of crossing over, as the radio station Dawn FM was pretty much the allegory, the symbolism to passing over, and each track hinting to crossing over into the afterlife, which I will honestly say does make sense due to this being the final record here, leading into the final record, the final installment of the trilogy. And after listening to Dawn FM, after listening to Hurry Up Tomorrow, you definitely do see a connection here. You definitely do feel like this is more cohesive. And I will say too, the allegory of death definitely does appear on this record again, which honestly I think digs deeper into that. And as I go deeper into this record, I'm definitely capturing a lot of themes here. So a lot of thematic focus, a lot of build-up. And as much as the grandiose feeling was on Dawn FM, I just feel like this record here is certainly more robust. It's definitely a grander experience. And this thing has various styles of pop, various styles of electronic music. But not only variations, but also fusions as well. And on this record, Abel is really digging into his Michael bag here, like his MJ bag, because the vocals here are very much reminiscent of Michael. However, I will say that this is pretty much like what would happen if Michael Jackson were to collab with acts like Justice, acts like One Oh Tricks Point Never, who is all over this record, all over producing this record. So yes, it's pretty much a culmination of Michael, Daft Punk, and Justice, but also atmospheric at the same time, but also cathartic, euphoric, as Abel is bearing his soul on here and just dishing it out to you on a drug-soaked, alcohol-soaked platter. And as cinematic as I thought Dawn FM was, this thing is way, way more cinematic. Definitely way more of a cinematic pop experience here. Like, I will say way more immersive, way more theatrical. Like, this thing is the equivalent of an elaborate synth pop stage show, as Abel is not only giving you a show in the literal sense, but also in, I would say, a metaphoric sense as well, as he touches on this record in detail, with a lot of futuristic elements, a lot of variation, and the whole thing just keeps me on the edge of my seat. Like, this is like a non-stop thrill ride. As Abel is also giving you very personal, very internal feelings here. And as far as the lead up to this record release, I was kind of nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Mostly due to the fact that a lot of the singles here weren't really catching me. I wasn't really too crazy about Dancing in the Rain, which I felt was like a great value version of Prince's Purple Rain. I just thought it sounded really rushed and weak, and I especially felt that way about Timeless with Playboi Carti. It just feels very rushed, it just feels very generic, very bland. And after listening to it in the context of the album, I definitely don't care for it now. And I say that due to how elaborate, due to how detailed and epic a lot of these tracks are, and how epic and elaborate this track is not. And if I'm being honest here, I do think the features are kind of a mixed bag. I wasn't really too crazy about the collaboration with Travis Scott and Florence and the Machine, which is unfortunate because Abel has definitely made magic with Travis Scott in the past, but on here it just sounded like an interlude that doesn't really go much of anywhere. You have the intro, you have the phone call, you have the inclusion, you have more of the phone call or more of the voicemail from this woman, but we'll get into that later. But of course there were singles on here that were absolutely fantastic. But as far as serving justice, no pun intended, to the record, I think it'd be best if I went chronologically, and I will touch on those singles in order as well as I go into detail in chronological order of each track in the album. Because this thing is very much loaded with bangers, especially the opener that sets a very theatrical, dramatic tone to the whole record. Because this thing opens up with a dramatic, dark, and synthy intro, and then bursts into a very glossy, punchy breakthrough that sounds like Justice and MJ collabed on this. It's like Thriller meets Justice Cross. That makes me feel like I'm stuck between the darkest corners of Abel's mind and also a futuristic nightmarish dance scene. And I will say, topically and genre-wise, it's absolutely fitting. And I love how a majority of these tracks flow into one another, segues perfectly. The whole album just feels like Abel is just really letting it out here, and in the format of this captivating show. But with this show, it's like a very on and off stage type experience, because while he is speaking from the perspective of performing, there is also the very expressive moments here where he's off stage, but also he's putting on a performance for the listener. And then we get the absolutely passionate but also theatrical Cry For Me, but simultaneously very groovy as Abel's delivering these emotive and heartfelt vocals that intertwine beautifully with these harmonies just surrounding me, just surrounding my head, accompanied by the booming analog bass and also tragic and yearning lyrics. I also feel, due to the sheen and the mix of darkness here, I feel it definitely does do a callback to his older stuff, especially with the incorporation of the trap drums. This time around though, he is definitely doing it in a more polished, experienced way. There's also little tidbits here of some interludes, very quick interludes, very quick moments here, where Abel is emphatically talking about how he can't sing, how he's very concerned and shouting, "I can't fucking sing." And while he's saying that, you hear the crowd screaming in the background, which segues perfectly into Say PAULO, which is absolutely epic, multifaceted, but also entrancing, which has this stellar Brazilian funk production. And I swear, like, I am loving how these artists are taking Brazilian funk and incorporating it into their music, but also doing something fun with it, doing something creative with it, also adding personality to it. It's a mixture of synth funk with super infectious refrains here that coalesces fantastically with these pounding but also very dancey drum patterns. You're also getting these dizzying Brazilian female vocals from Anitta on here, and I can't tell if this is a sample because the vocals do kind of have like a lo-fi quality to it, but it fits. And the angelic and heavenly vocals from Abel here, the vocal melodies just swirling around in the production, is just absolutely stellar, absolutely amazing and beautiful. It's pretty much a religious experience. And yes, the bridge is absolutely heavenly. And on top of that too, like, this whole thing feels like I'm in a rave mixed with crossing over into the spirit world. The whole thing feels like having an outer body experience and then sucked right back into the party. So not only is he doing these genre blends, but he's also telling a story too, which I can honestly say separates Abel from the rest in this lane. So not only did I love this thing as a single, but I also love this in the context of the album as well. And the way it does this warp speed interlude into Baptized in Fear is just fantastic. The production, you could say, is another callback to Abel's catalog, but has this detailed graphic imagery of our protagonist contemplating meeting his demise. Like, you could hear and feel every delineation of Abel's harrowing thoughts here, of his darkest moment here, of pain, of trauma, as we get this internal monologue, these delineations of this inner pain, inner turmoil he is facing. But simultaneously, we have the voices in his head telling him to carry on. So it's tracks like this that definitely feel like you are watching the show, like you are definitely getting the story, and a performative story as well, but still a very captivating one, a very compelling one. Because with this type of performance here, with this type of album, you are definitely getting something of the lines of an opera, if you will, like a synth pop opera, a popera. After that, we get a super smooth transition into Open Hearts. And the thing is, like, the transition on this thing is so smooth that I honestly thought I was listening to a fucking beat switch. I thought the beat just switched completely, but no, this is just another example of a fantastic segue into another track. We also get another callback, but in this case to Dawn FM, where in Open Hearts you're getting this rigid synth bass line that definitely is reminiscent of Depeche Mode. And again, Abel is doing these deeper vocals this time around. And the build of the production is fantastic as it goes from dark to cold to somber to very glimmering, very lush. But even though this thing switched up to glimmering and shining, you are still getting that ominous tone that this record has, as Abel shares the difficulties of falling in love after experiencing heartbreak, after being torn. Opening Night is another interlude here, but I do feel like this should have been the outro to Open Hearts. I think that would make a lot more sense, where we eventually get the underwhelming feature from Travis Scott and Florence. And again, I think this track had so much potential, and I'm talking about the track that it leads into after Open Night, but yeah, I just wish this track was more solid, more cohesive, because given the star power, it should have been more powerful than it was. However, a feature I will say that goes over without a hitch, flying colors surprisingly, is his collaboration with Future. And on this track, Enjoy the Show, Future sounds genuinely heartbroken here. Like, he sounds like he's about to cry and just on the verge of absolute tears on this track. I'm like, who hurt you? Was it you?
Don't look at me. I didn't take a shit on his last album.
You would have.
And don't drink my liquid death.
But anyway, he just sounds so torn up and so heartbroken here over a gorgeous, soulful sample here, but also serves a very poignant theme to the LP that I've been speaking on how he's saying that he hopes you enjoy what he's brought to the table. If not, then enjoy his pain regardless. It's pretty much a message to his fans, but also his detractors at the same time. And I feel each lyric here really plays into one another, saying like, if you didn't enjoy this, I hope you enjoyed the show, meaning I hope you enjoyed the spectacle of my pain, of my suffering, and how performative I was about it. Because I honestly feel like we're getting both here. As much as I do love this record, you are definitely getting a very compelling story here, and that story being brought from his pain, his suffering. And the vocal performances, the way he coalesces with the production, the outro, is just great. The second half of the record I don't think is bad, but not as smooth as the beginning here. Also, we are getting styles here that aren't very standout, and not very standout as in it's kind of getting It's kind of giving deja vu, how we've already gotten this style before that he's mastered greatly. I really didn't think we need another one, like on the track Giving Up on Me. Meanwhile, I Can't Wait to Get There is a very psychedelic, very funky neo-soul type production here, and honestly very reminiscent of Tyler. And I say that with how much quirk is in the production. Like, the synths are so squishy and colorful, you just can't count Tyler out. Like, Tyler the Creator definitely served as an influence here. And I honestly feel he should have been on this, as Abel goes on a melodic diatribe on his detractors, as he expresses resentment of those who betrayed him, but also his paranoia that's very celebrity based. Timeless, as I mentioned before, definitely the weakest track here. I really didn't find anything stand out about this. I think Cardi really sounds more flat than ever, more flavorless than ever, definitely lacking a lot of personality here. And the beat is pretty forgettable too, and surprisingly produced by Pharrell Williams. And it's interesting to me, this juxtaposition, how this album is definitely my favorite by far from The Weeknd, but this gotta be the worst track on the album, and probably his worst single in a long time. But this album, though, I don't know. I don't think this was a good fit for the record, and he could have done better. It's just a very mild mid track, in my opinion. And I have someone else who has an opinion on this as well. Babe, what do you think of the Weeknd and Playboy Cardi track?
I have no idea. I never heard it.
Yes, you have.
I did?
It's the Timeless song. It's the.
I gotta hear it again.
I love you. Niagara Falls is definitely a non-starter for me also. Like, it really does sound like a bygone Pharrell era type track. And the song Take Me Back to LA is definitely Tears for Fears coded, but in a wonderful way. Like, it's just so blissful, as Abel does a shift here, a turning point, where he just wants to go back home to a place where he feels authenticity, like where he wants to feel authenticity as he's feeling fraudulent here. It's very heartening, very truthful, but also I feel metaphoric, because if you know Abel, like, he is not from LA, he's from Canada. So I do feel like this is somewhat symbolic here. And I really do think that this track really does show how Abel has not only developed as a vocalist, but also a songwriter too. And I feel like if you're into the Weeknd lore, if you're aware of his background, he did leave home on a weekend, so I do feel this somewhat ties into the backstory a little bit. I could be wrong here, but that's what I'm getting from it. I mean, especially as he's talking about returning to home, but again, that's just what I'm getting from it. Early on in the review, I did mention Giorgio Moroder. I hope I'm saying that name right. I'm probably not saying that name right. But if you're aware of his work, he has done scores for Scarface. Yes, the movie Scarface, but also collaborations with Daft Punk, and Moroder being this Euro disco legend, and also with how he's been this figure for inclusions of very dark, synthy music, very dramatic music. I feel like he played an excellent role into Big Sleep, as the transformation of this track is just absolutely bizarre and frightening, because this thing goes from very joyous, very summery, to transforming into this dark, desolate, dense, heavy, sinister production. Like, it's very dark, it's very forlorn, it's very theatrical, also very chilling as well. Like, this really does sound like a theme from Scarface. It's just so haunting and beautiful at the same time. That breaks into these vocoder vocals and a lot of vocal manipulations too. And I will say, due to the theme of death and crossing over, The sounds and effects here, I will say, is definitely fitting, very gratifying. The following track, I think, topically is fitting, don't get me wrong, and I do like the sentiment. I do feel it correlates with the record, but God, the production here just feels so drumless. And when there are drums, it just feels so thin, which is a shame because I do feel there is a lyrical turning point here. Now, the song Drive, however, very much is a callback to the electronic mid-2000s. Like, it definitely sounds like a better version of when there was the inclusion and amalgamation of R&B, electronic, and pop. Like, it's just done in a very amazing way. Like, it's very bubbly, it's very atmospheric, and there is this sentiment of escapism. You're also getting these ascending horns, cavernous vocals, along with skittering drums. It's just so beautiful to me, and honestly a mood change. And probably the most exuberant and cathartic and joyous track on the record, which is certainly refreshing due to how dark and tortured this album has been lyrically. And I know this may piss some Drake fans off, and don't get me wrong, I do like Take a Shot for Me, but I feel like this is a better version of that song. I mean, I know the Drake stans are probably gonna eat me up in the comments, but that's just how I feel. And the refrain is just so beautiful and catchy. It just lives rent-free in my head. I just wanna drive, I just wanna drive. Yeah, I can't hit that note, don't ask me to. And then we have the fantastic collab with Lana Del Rey, which is the song Abyss. And as far as their collaboration goes, it's really nothing new. They have collabed in the past, but I feel this is the best collab they've ever done. Like, the bass is huge, the synths are very grand, the vocals are absolutely soaring, and lyrically, as far as the narrative, it definitely does feed into the theme here. So not only do I think this is an amazing highlight, but also really shows how far they've come, how much development they've gained over the years. It's just a very moving and gorgeous moment. And the song Without Warning probably has the most dustiest, dirtiest sample here, where Abel is performing to this crowd. I feel there's also a lot of symbolism here as he's performing to this crowd and what he's saying to this crowd, as it is drawing near the end and he is just reflecting, having these meditations of being abandoned by his father, about how his pain, his substance abuse really does play into his music, and even this very compelling and very concerning line about how he's saying, I can't refrain from substance abuse because I can't afford to be boring, and really ends things off with the message of not knowing if tomorrow is coming, if tomorrow is promised. Like, there's certainly a lot of symbolism here, and also a genuine feeling. Like, I feel there's a lot of symbolism here, drawing to the end, drawing to the closer, but it also feels very genuine as well. And the closer, which is an immensely touching piano-backed ballad, truly a heart-wrenching send-off, not only to his fans, but to close out the album, about changing as a person, filling the void of being abandoned by his father, apologizing to his mother, basically feeling like a failure, about letting down the people who he loved. It's very crushing. It's a very crushing moment on the record, a very crushing closing moment on the record. And how he just wants peace, how he just wants serenity. And the funeral-like church organs that we get here, I feel are very symbolic. Along with that is, like, as he's singing here, like, the song just ends, like he just vanishes off the track, and you just get this silence and wind blowing. There's nothing. It's like this is the closer, the finale. It's like the character just died and passed on. And yeah, it's the finish. It's a powerful finish to a great trilogy, in my opinion. I feel like this is really the era of trilogies, as Nas has done it very well. The Weeknd's done it very well. But for this is the ending of the pseudonym. This is the ending of the moniker of The Weeknd. So he's really done a fantastic job here. Great job overall, great record. I really did love this album. And it's like they have the term world building, but in this case, he is world destroying. Like, and the way he did it, the way he puts together these genres to tell a story, to create a personality, I feel that's what separates him from other artists in the synth pop lane. And I'm basically talking about the modern. I will say in terms of pop music, he's definitely very standout. So whenever someone tries to do a cheap ripoff of him, you could tell they're missing the formula. They're missing the basis, and they're missing the ingredient of what makes The Weeknd great, what makes this trilogy great. Why mixing synth pop and electronic music, how he just does it in a way that no one else is doing. And yeah, great album from The Weeknd. I'm very curious what comes next. Like, what is the next genre he's gonna hop on? What's the new name? But I don't know. I mean, Abel, The Weeknd, thank you. Thank you for this very enjoyable ride, this very enjoyable experience. And I'm looking forward to what the next chapter is for Abel. I'm feeling a 4 out of 5 black hearts on this. If you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, The Weeknd, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Till we meet again.